complicated there.
I'm a little scared. How are you, sir?
Good.
Riding a motorcycle today?
I don't know where Brandon's at. All right, we'll call the meeting in order then on the special council workshop here at the Republic City Hall. David, it's all yours.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss just a few things. I look forward to having work sessions more often, and one of the things on tonight's agenda is talking about council meeting times, when we're doing them, adding a work session to them that we can discuss different topics. But there's a couple things I want to go over tonight before we go to the budget workshop, which is actually Thursday night, and I kind of want to walk you through the spreadsheets that we've sent out and revised and sent out. A lot of that was just to help generate questions before the budget workshop, because what I'd like to do in this budget season is talk more about budget numbers, the financial position of the city, and things that are actually in the budget itself rather than the different things in the departments. We'll talk about mission, vision, and values in a different meeting about where we're going for 2017, but I want the budget to be talking about budget numbers and what those numbers actually represent. And so what I want to do is kind of just walk you through what the slides are. You can look at it. I'll explain what changes are different. This budget template is different than the one you've seen in the past. I want to explain that just briefly. If you have any questions about that, we can, or if you have questions between now and Thursday, that's probably the biggest priority, is make sure that you let us know any questions that you might have, going forward with it. Councilman Self asked, he sent me an email today. I asked him if it was okay if I shared this with the council, so if you would, Brenda, help me pass these out. And then, I've also got some more information that I didn't want to just send out by email so you didn't get emailed to death. Would you give each one of these?
I do. Orange, Steve.
What's next is what's next that's going to be handed out is a current debt obligation sheet in the capital for 2017. Just some of the questions that you can look at between now and Thursday. Is one of the key things I asked Jared and John to do is to look at the debt obligation of the city just to get an overall idea. And to create a PowerPoint slide of where we stood on debt obligations. So that's what that sheet is basically representing. So you can look at that. Yeah. There should be one more capital request. Did everybody get the capital? Everybody get the capital sheet?
Yep. That's missing 4. I might not have handled all
That's
of
what he's
that.
looking for. You think so?
So for the last several weeks, last several council meetings, you've asked me, we want to update the financial position, a more accurate, up-to-date, and I think if you look at some of the admin reports, for several, well, since I've arrived, I guess I've asked questions about the financials of the city, and before we actually reported or brought something, I wanted to make sure that whatever we put together was comprehensive, well thought out, so that we could give you a more accurate picture, divide out the departments to reflect what the actual numbers were. We are in the middle of a special audit or review. I wouldn't call it an audit with BKD over the street and stormwater fund. And so until the findings of that come out specifically, some of this is all still very much a work in progress or process. So with that, what I provided or what, sorry?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, more so about my email. I just want to, reiterate, when I was brought on and I spoke to Mayor Buckner, it was, hey, we're in a very solid spot. We're in the best financial position that we've ever been in. And then when I get these numbers, it's polar opposite. And so my reasoning for seeing that out is, I just feel like, not that I was duped or anything, but just, I felt like I was told one thing, and it's just night
But
and
we
day.
all were, Brandon.
And
It wasn't just you.
I really think
I
it's...
was told the same
right.
thing.
I think it's good that it's coming to light now, so we can do something about it. I heard the same things you did. We didn't have the information to know what we had. It was Greek. I could look at the reports and I couldn't tell you what was normal and appropriate, and what, it didn't make sense. So, I'm with you, but I'm glad we have the transparency now, and really like to understand more about it.
And so, why the second agenda item about the work sessions and us doing this, is we just need to have that candid conversation about what you're saying, because...
Yeah, well, even that extra day to Tuesday gives us another day to digest. Well, I mean, we need to have as much information and as many questions as possible before we vote, because from what I can see, we don't have a whole lot of room for error going forward.
Yeah, and I think that, so, with that being said, I think that there's a lot for us to work through in this budget cycle. That's why I wanted to have a little pre-meeting before Thursday night of what I would like for us to discuss Thursday night versus what we do not need to discuss Thursday night. Because we can have a meeting about 2017 mission, vision, values, and direction of where we're going to go, of how we are going to grow our economy and how we're going to do it in different ways. Because we need to have that discussion, because that's a very positive, upbeat, but it's very aggressive. But right now we need to talk about the current state of what True North is, because I'd be just as shocked as you when you look at the financials and I get into the numbers, like, wow, that's not... So I would share that same thing, but what we do is, what do we do with it now, moving forward? And I'm going to need the help of the council, us to engage in what is the best action steps of the community. I'm going to provide recommendations working with the staff to get there. But I will say this, between John, Jared, and Connie, the weekends, Connie taking off their vacation days to get us to this point, there's a lot of work to get that transparency that you've asked for weeks. It wasn't that we were just there going, we don't know the answer. It's like, we don't want to give half now and say, oops, we should have changed it. We wanted to get this all converted into a new number so we could actually show you the data. Therefore, back to that original question that's been asked as to the budget, what we've done in these, yes.
Before we jump into this, one question. You mentioned the BKD audit. When can we expect a report from that audit, and what can we expect it to tell us?
I'm going to go to the second question first, if that's okay. I expect that we're going to have a transfer from street reserve to the stormwater. So stormwater is going to be heavier in cash. What do we figure? We estimate probably in the I don't want to be held to this number, but it's about what is there in that cash balance now?
Roughly 1.6, 1.7.
So I anticipate stormwater is going to have about 1.5 million in that account, and streets is going to be extremely lean, almost to, I wouldn't say a zero balance, but it's going to be pretty dang close. So Thanksgiving, they're supposed to have the last email I saw was they was going to have that. They will provide a report to council, which is part of their cost. So street in and of itself and stormwater is going to have to be extremely creative in what we utilize the street staff for and how to maximize or utilize our crews to do stormwater projects. Because when you look at this budget, when we get into that discussion on Thursday, therein lies going to be a very large challenge. But I expect stormwater to have about a $1.5 million surplus when it's done, and street to be extremely lean.
Oh, and we'll see all the other accounts in there, and they'll give us their feedback on those as well.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, just street and stormwater.
That's all the audit is for?
That's right,
Okay.
because that's the one that is stipulated by ordinance that those two are supposed to be
Right.
separated, and they're not. And because they're not, from an auditing perspective, that needed to get cleaned up.
Okay.
So, but moving forward,
I have one more question here.
go ahead.
Why wasn't this caught in our regular yearly audit?
Well, tread lightly here. I cannot answer for the auditor why that was not found.
but not just 1 year.
18.
Yeah.
Yeah, so why we were looking for different auditors, I've called and asked the same question, even met with our auditor to ask different questions about our financials, but it specifically states in that ordinance you will have 2 separate accounts, and they're not there. So, it's a great question, but it's,
I just can't understand how it wasn't caught by numerous people or departments over 18 years. It blows my mind. Or department heads, just, I don't want to point fingers, but there's so many people that should have caught that, including us, I guess.
Yes, including us.
and so, with that being said, I mean, I feel that question is before as to why find it now? It's what started this conversation was looking for the cash to secure OTC, and then looking at restricted and unrestricted, and that's why if you follow those admin reports, I'm trying to put together a puzzle when I'm looking at those documents. I'm thinking we can't secure debt with secured funds, but what was interesting was street stormwater were consolidated in any way. What you have now is you have an unconsolidated account, which was one of the questions I was asked. When is it going to be unconsolidated? What we've done is we've got that. It's demonstrated here. Until BKD gets done, I don't want to sit there and say these are audited financials, because I believe what will have to happen, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but they will have to go back into our last few audits to correct the financials in those audits, because the balances will be incorrect. So we have to actually correct the previous 2 audits, is my understanding, to correct those issues. So it's kind of like Jason said, I'd love to deliver this is all great, but my objective is, as we move forward as an organization, I want to build it on a solid platform that we know is accurate, correct, and it'll pass an audit. And so, back to your question, we thought we had all that stuff done.
I have one more follow-up question, and then I'll let you get back to what you're doing. The reason I asked was what was included in the BKD audit. Are we confident that the other accounts, both restricted and unrestricted, are in good shape? Are we looking at those as well?
They are looking at if they find anything that would trigger any of those other accounts, but there are other things like the admin fees that I'm going to get into that triggered more questions other than just the BKD audit. Some of our own internal review of how we were transferring cash from taxed funds needed more accountability to this. So.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure we don't have our focus on stormwater and roads and not looking over as well. Okay.
We're looking at all. I do think there are internal. I will tell you this: are there internal controls regarding the use of sales tax that we don't need an oversight committee of how we utilize our tax to be more accountable for that? 1,000%. We need to have something that is looking to make sure it's being accounted for the correct way.
Okay.
And so I think that so I'm going to I'm not skipping past it, but the revised budget, we're still working on the revised numbers, but even given, I'm concerned to give you until we get one last number, but this is 2016, even with buying the City Hall land, you were projected, the original projection for 2016, you were going to have about $10,000 surplus, and there was another position created that would put it at a $35,000 deficit. Then the City Hall land purchase and feasibility study. So if this number holds true, that's actually a pretty good recovery overall, given the fact there was about $500,000. But again, we want to continue to work on those numbers. And I don't want to go real fast and skip anybody's question, because Thursday night I want we need to have all those questions. I just want to make sure that there's anything that I can clarify now that'll help explain it. But Jason, you asked about our sales tax numbers, or you asked about the use of it. There is one fee, there's 2 fees in here. This one right here called the administrative fee. You can transfer a certain amount of fees by statute. We're allowed to transfer as long as you can show or demonstrate a time study. So like, you can charge a portion of my salary, a portion of Jared's, a portion of John's. You can create an administrative fee, utility billing, utility billing's not, that goes back to water, wastewater, but, HR, IT, city clerk. You can create an admin fee, but statute requires you have a time study that validates, if you're taking from Jared's Parks Department, which is a sales tax, because he has the revenue, there's revenue from a generated sales tax. If that admin fee does not, if there's no formula to that admin fee, it's just as the word was, the ability to pay, there has to be a formula to that. And so that number does exist, and that this year in this year's budget, I'm gonna ask you to approve that formula as part of our budget process. So the resolution is, you will know how we arrived at that administrative fee, and if an auditor comes in and wants to know how are you taking money out of a sales tax, that it allows us to do it, how did you arrive at that number? I'm not gonna tell you it's an exact science, but it's better than any instrument that we have on the books right now that we could use with an auditor. So we did talk with like the state auditor's office to get some guidance on a lot of stuff that we're doing, and the city of Nixon as well. So trying to get you that document and an instrument that will at least show how we got there is critical in the budget. The administrative fee, it looks like we're generating 12,200 and 300, I mean, like, that the number is actually going up in 2017. What that is doing is it's actually reflecting that every department now reflects an admin fee. Because what it looked like was just, if you've got money, like street, water, sewer, parks, they're the only ones that had an admin fee. So it looks extremely strange, like, well, how did you create you don't have a formula, we're only charging people that can pay. So it's there is a paper transfer of some sort, but it demonstrates that every department has their portion of the administration fee. So it's reflected as a revenue, but it's also reflected as an expense, so it's a wash in the budget. So as you go through there, like, man, admin fees are up. Remember, it's a paper transfer, but it's the best way to show it to the auditors and someone looking at it that every department is being assessed equally by a formula to charge for that. Admin, what admin is, you used to get a budget that would show HR, IT, somebody help me out, finance. UB was under water, wastewater. What's consolidated now is the accounts or administration is the UB, HR, IT, UB, and finance. And so what happens is the UB is billed to wastewater as an expense, generated back to the water side, back to the admin as a revenue. It is not charged an admin fee because it was not included in the formula for it. So I will tell you that there's a lot of work in these formulas to get there to make sure that we could withstand an audit, and that's why you'll see a water UB transfer and a wastewater UB transfer, because that's the actual expense back to the department, because they're in the admin side. Also, one thing that's also noted is all the revenue that used to be under the administration budget, like LEST, law enforcement sales tax, would be in your old budget, would be under the general fund revenue. LEST is law enforcement sales tax, therefore it is now listed under the appropriate department. So it's under law enforcement, so if someone was to audit, it shows it went to the police department budget. It did not go into the general fund to pay salaries and wages of administration. So if I scroll over to the PD, you'll see, if you look at your last year's budget, those that were here, I just missed it. Just want to show this, just like fire, there is a cigarette tax on the books. By statute, that says that cigarette tax is for the fire department. It does not belong in the general fund revenue. So what we did is we cleaned up those accounts to demonstrate. So here's PD. Sorry. So when you go through these accounts, what you're seeing is the revenue is no longer in a general fund lump sum. It's actually being accounted for in the appropriate department, so you actually know what their revenue is for the law enforcement sales tax moving forward. And so, and this is one significant change. If you look at the balance back to the original sheet, it shows a surplus of $13 in the original budget when we got done for this year. to balance this budget, we transferred, again, talking to the general counsel of the state auditor's office, policing does qualify under this thing right here, I'll have to use my pointer, but I'm going to, this state motor sales tax. Bless you.
Thank you.
And the state motor fuel tax as well.
I'm sorry, but the state motor fuel tax right here shows 194,392. What that is doing is that is transferring the entire amount from street to the PD. So basically, so how do you have to do that? You have to demonstrate through an instrument, which we'll ask you to approve by resolution, that it goes for patrolman, it goes for fleet maintenance, vehicle, fuel. So you have to demonstrate, this is one of the things that was hit up on Sparta's audit, that they did not have an instrument that demonstrated how they arrived at that. What that does do, though, is creates a tremendous gap, obviously, in the street department budget that's already taken a hit with what the audit's gonna do.
So the estimated actual for 2016 versus the budget requested, are we saying that we weren't accurately reflecting that?
We were accurately reflecting it, we had no document to support we were doing it, but
So then where's the jump? What's the disparity there?
why from here to there?
Yeah, why the jump?
Because if you go to the street budget, you'll see it go to 0.
Okay,
Because as long as you can demonstrate it, it was split 50-50, but there was no math to it. It was
Okay.
just, so historically, the city has taken that number right here, split it 50-50. Half
Okay.
went to street, that's why well, if you go to the street, it's gonna show that to 0.
that makes sense.
Because it can fund, it can fund the general fund.
So it was just in the wrong place to be,
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, it just meant that, what it meant was, you could move it all here, but this it gave us flexibility with, before it was just split it 50-50. What we can demonstrate is basically what we did is, here's how many patrol officers we have, it exceeds that amount of money, so we can put the whole thing in there.
okay,
It gave us flexibility in the budget to balance, otherwise you would have tonight, short of that, there'd be 0 capital and a $90,000 budget deficit. So that's how to get the 13,000 plus to put the 200,000 back into capital improvements for the general fund to have capital at all, with the sheet I just gave you, because those of you who are on the capital improvements committee, I told you 2 weeks ago, there was no money for police cars, no money for, it was a zilch. So, to get to that number, to provide for that, and to even have a $13,000 surplus, that's how that happened. So when people say we cut PD, staff, or equipment, what we did is we actually added stuff back in to their department to help create capital for as well. But it does create a delta in the street department. And so I will go, which means there's gonna be, in my speculation, in the street budget, on the street resurfacing projects, and David, you sent me an email about this today, I don't doubt the thing, because right now it's showing a $542,000 deficit in street. So somewhere if that number, and here's what's crazy, if that number holds true with the audit, and there's not a reserve necessarily there for it, there's gonna be a significant cut in the street department, which means the street department crews are gonna, in my opinion, we'll have to figure out a way more to utilize the stormwater tax and use our own crews to build it and bill it out to the stormwater, which is legal, when we're allowed to do that. So, but it's just, this is not gonna be an easy road because those two accounts were combined together. The word lean comes to mind. If you've been in manufacturing, I think this is probably gonna be,
can you go back to those numbers?
down at the bottom.
Yeah, I don't have the 140 on my sheet. No, was it 140, 520? Thank you.
So, and David, we did correct the one area about the public work you asked about anyway. So, I'll go up here real quick. Sorry, not good.
We're almost 30 minutes in. I'm reminding you.
Thank you, sir. So, again, this is the way it was represented before in the street budget. We have eliminated that they're no longer blended together. We also had to do, this has been moved. It's reflective, and I appreciate that correction. But right here, you're seeing, that's where it's reflected, and that's been transferred to the general fund. So, when you
That
get
makes sense to me.
when you get to those areas, you're like, what happened there? What the heck happened there? I want to be really clear how we balanced the budget on the front end was we took a provision, we got the email, it'll be attached as part of the resolution that demonstrates how we got there, so you're not just moving money without some sort of direction or guidance from the state auditor's office, or they're not going to give us an opinion. They're going to give us what happened in another city as guidance, and that's what I would say happened in this situation. So, one other item that's different is in the fire budget. One thing we do is we just to clarify, the fire and OEM budgets are also consolidated in one, which does not mean the OEM does not exist. It means that it's all encapsulated into one budget. But I want to show one thing on the revenue side that's interesting here, that just to clarify. One other item that's in here that's new, there is a personnel schedule that has salary ranges for all employees, including department heads. One thing that was missing before was to an employee, department heads had no salary range, and so there was no top out for them, but there was in a step in grade. So I think it brought some clarity there. I want to clarify this Homeland Security fire grant real quick. 15%, right, John?
5% is the city's share, which works out to about roughly $15,500.
So actually, in this right here, on the revenue side, 95% of that is not our revenue. That's FEMA's money or the federal government's Homeland Security's money, and so that'll be the same way on the expense side, but it's reflected down here. We talked about this on the front. Why was it in the fire tax number? Because you can use the fire tax, the 5%. It does state in that ballot language that it would fund operations, and so between John, I don't remember when you guys had your discussion, but that we've questioned back and forth if it's got the fire tax in it. Where are we at? So, what else?
You wanna go over this debt? You wanna wait till Thursday night?
Okay, so I want to commend. So originally, the original question was, and there's one thing we changed in stormwater, and David, I apologize, I want to clarify this. In 2017, what will have to happen is, just like it is if there was a FEMA storm, when there's a project that's stormwater related, it's like you got to keep an accounting of all that is, so an accounting of your admin fees, your cost of doing that. I do not know what that is because there's no way to actually, we can estimate what the number is. So in 2017, I anticipate when we get down to somewhere in the revised budget 17 with the project itself, that'll say 217 estimated actual, and the revised side, those numbers, those will start to fill in as the year goes on because we'll be able to bill that out. It'll show as an expense here, and it'll revenue back into the street department. That clear as mud.
Makes sense to me. We didn't have these accounts before.
That's right. These accounts didn't exist, but here's the deal. If you're gonna charge for an admin, if you charge for anybody, but if it's for a capital function, tractors, just like it was a FEMA cleanup. Hey, we used our backhoe, we used an operator. What was our hourly rate? It went to stormwater, engineering fees. then you start accounting for it into these accounts. So these accounts will start to fill up. Trust me, if there's no money to do street projects, these accounts are gonna start to fill up. And they will be credited back as revenue from the stormwater account to the street department. And that is because it wasn't used for street funds, it was actually used to do stormwater. But with a $1.5 million reserve, you got plenty of room to do stormwater projects, but we can talk about that. But then, anyway, I just wanted to kind of give all these tabs, you can just click on them. You can see everything you want more. I'm not saying they're going to be edited and amended between now. I mean, but anything that substantially changes, but that's pretty much for the most part. And if you got any questions regarding, but we can go over debt structure.
Is that Thursday or tonight?
I prefer, I mean,
Is there any other debt that's not on there?
yes, that's correct. There's 2 debt obligations on there.
Do you know how much those are?
Is the fire truck not on there?
I see a 1991 truck.
Yeah, there's the aerial, and then there's the fire pumper truck.
That's the old existing aerial that's on.
But the new ladder truck's not on here, yes? And so why, I know why, because it's financing. And so we got 2 trucks in water wastewater that went out to bid, or
Right,
you're waiting for financing.
the RFP for financing, the deadline is this Wednesday, and then we'll know who's going to be financing those 2 trucks.
Any idea how much?
What,
But those are budget, those
what are the 2
numbers
things
are-
not on here?
Well, what's not on there is the ladder truck.
How do we still owe
You still gotta do-
75,000 on the 91?
Yeah. We had that discussion.
My best answer is in 2001, they bought a 91 truck. In 2010, it got refinanced with about 2 years debt service left remaining. And then it was refinanced for another 15 years.
So that truck doesn't,
It's
it's
gonna
not
be,
worth that much.
Can we sell it?
well, we could probably get in that discussion at some time, but I think that by the time I mean, all this is discussion we can have, but what I would agree is that we need to have the discussion regarding our debt.
Yeah, I would ask a bigger question when we have that discussion. Do we have the ability to reprioritize
So the answer
the
is,
payoffs of these?
yeah. So
Well, we're long-term heavy. Like, we have 5 of them that's coming due before 2020, and I even took the highlighted ones that are this year, but just to a tune of $269,000. But that's not including the 2, which that new fire truck, how much is that?
$1,020,000.
Yeah, Brandon, I see the same thing here. That's why I think it's a bigger discussion to talk about how we tackle this.
See, and that's why I want to spend Thursday doing, is if there's questions about the line items, but what I want to talk about is what do we do to get us where we free up our capital position, because a lot of the general fund cash, if you read this, is paying debt service. So, Chief, an example for like your staff, say if we needed more police officers, it's paying for the police, it's paying for the building, the debt structure, in the general fund that was meant to pay for the officer, kinda. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd just like to see how we not be so long-term heavy, how we start to close this gap a lot more aggressively.
I think we're gonna need Stifel and different groups and financial advisors to help us restructure our debt and
Okay.
restructure this stuff to get, or come up with ideas. The other thing I would like to talk about, which we're not prepared to talk about tonight, obviously, is what funds we have available, like talking about the impact fee funds, is I don't understand, is that for but that's again for Thursday night, but I wanna understand, can we use that, because if we increase capacity of it, it may only be for the treatment plants. David, is that right?
Treatment plant or the system-wide expansion.
So, all the system-wide expansion, when I look at the debt service down here till 2031 on Brookline Sewer of $2 million, I mean, even though that doesn't help the general fund, it's still a whole, doing the revenue on it, we're paying almost $570,000 of debt service. I saw the revenue in Brookline consolidation on water and sewer today was just, short of $59,000 a year.
We have $6 million in debt though.
Well, not all, some of it is, there's about, but anyway, we just need to have that conversation about how we spur economic development moving forward.
And how we get more aggressive and how we tackle this. I think
That's
that's the other side of the
That's why I want, yeah, so the whole objective of sending you this data now was if there's any questions regarding line items, because there's some stuff in here that we can tackle, like, we need to get a bigger e-platform where people can pay their utility bill online instead of paying $32,000 worth of postage, out of that, and then also, why we're paying, what, $35,000, $40,000 a year in credit card fees so people can pay their bill. We need to tackle those things, but that's not the bigger issue that,
What's the other line item that's not on this debt obligation?
There's the ladder truck.
And what else?
Two trucks for
there's
waste
2
and
trucks
water.
in water and wastewater. I think they're service trucks. Is that,
Those are actually on there, David, we just don't know right now, how much. The only thing that's not on here that we spoke about is the brand new ladder truck. It's not on there because we haven't secured financing for it. And that is a purchase price of a little over $1 million.
So you're talking, I see the service truck, is that what you're talking about?
Oh, okay.
That's only one.
There's
Well, there's
two of them.
the
Chevy one.
Chevy,
one
okay.
ton.
Sorry, I didn't see it. Thank
Those
you.
are estimated 3-year payoff, $45K a year roughly.
Right, and that has been included in the budgets, templates, the 45 and the 42,000.
but I appreciate the work that it's taken on. I think this is information that is very relevant for you all to see about what the current, as much as it's not the best news, it is where we're at, and it's what we need to deal with, so.
This is great. Had no idea. Thank you.
So, any questions anything you'd like to see additional in the budget before we get to Thursday night? Because really what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the quick financial position, and then, we're gonna talk about moving forward for how we can consolidate debt, and then other ways to raise revenue, other ideas for how to spur economic development. If not, let's, the next issue was the idea of the concept of switching to, I'm sorry, Tuesday nights, or council meeting nights, from a Monday to a Tuesday was to allow an additional day, to the council. It changes it from 7 to 6:30, having a work session, it's not a guarantee in a work session at 5:30. Why I like this is that we can sit down and have this conversation before we bring ideas and different things to you, that we can actually understand where the council's coming from, so we can discuss those things moving forward, whether it be purchasing any type of vehicle, or purchasing anything, or making a land purchase. It's not done at the council meeting, it's done in a work session. And so, that's one, and then the other thing that's on the agenda is the order of schedule, which allows for council to, at the end of every meeting, offer an opportunity to engage and discuss a topic that's not already on the agenda, that is at the very end of the meeting. Say someone gets up at the podium and addresses a comment, and you wait till the very end of the meeting and say, you know what, I'd like for staff to look into speed traps, whoops, wrong word, speed studies on this street. It's better that the whole council knows what's going on in a certain area. Like, if you drive down and you see these studies going on, and I'm not notified everybody, like, wait a minute, I didn't know what was going on. It's a better way for us to engage into what's going on in the city and why we're doing it, and concerns that have come up. It doesn't mean we're going to go out and change or write policy based upon one comment, but what it means is it lets us know what you're hearing on the street, things to do. And I think what it does is it just changes the order where I'll give a report, the mayor gives a report, then the council, you just go around, and if you don't have to say, there's nothing really you have to say, you know, wish everybody a Merry Christmas, or the next thing maybe is, hey, I got a point I want to make, or a question I'd like to see on these financial reports, things of that nature. I also think the financial reports moving forward will be moved to work sessions where we could actually have financial discussions, because I anticipate several of them in 2017. So, I'll entertain any questions, concerns, or discussion about moving to changing the council meeting. This is not trying to change it just for the sake of change. There's bigger issues to deal with, but the work session, and we set the agenda at the beginning of the year, that's why you're seeing it. This wasn't like the biggest fish in the pond that we needed to go catch, but it's an issue that we need to address, and we're setting the 2017 agenda that's done by resolution. That's why you're seeing it. So,
Yep, the only question I have, new schedule sounds fine to me personally, but we are still gonna get our packets on the same day, right? So we are actually gonna gain a day to digest information? Is that the plan?
that is correct.
Okay. Okay, that's my question.
That's the objective of it. That's why just the Tuesday, and then if you have a question, you could call. And I like to also offer to council times on that Monday or Tuesday, that if you want to stop by my office and say, I got questions regarding the agenda, it gives an extra day. We can, hey, I didn't get a chance to read it this weekend, next thing you know, you're here at a meeting. If there's something else that's going on, you come in and say, hey, I want to, help me understand that. Brandon came in today and needed kind of an explanation on debt obligations, and so it kind of gives an extra day to have that conversation, and so it allows for that.
That's great.
Clarification.
Yeah.
You say, get a voice here, you say possible changing it to Tuesday, but in the deal you were talking about the first and third Tuesday of the month.
That's right. It changes it not just from, it was the second and the
Fourth.
Yeah, a lot of that is the Missouri Municipal League Conference that meets. The city has we have no, like this year, for me to go or for any of us to go, it's scheduled around, it's on our schedule, and we have no contingency at those meetings and different things of that nature. And just flipping our schedule to be more conducive with that would allow more of Republic's people to be at those events, to network at those. That's why I'm not going to lose sleep if it stays the same way it is. It's just an offer to while we're changing that schedule, but that's why that's the way that is. But I hate missing meetings. But I hate missing the municipal league where we have a chance to go and work with other people from other cities and get stuff that they're doing. They're in what, and I don't want to see other city staff not there.
When do they meet?
Whenever day I was gone, September 12th was this weekend.
I don't have a problem with the schedule change.
I don't either.
I don't have a problem with Tuesdays. My issue, being a manufacturer, I work 5:30 to 6 every day. In the evening, every evening, so, like, even, till 5:30, starting about the same time in the AM. I may or may not have violated state and or local laws to get here tonight when I did, right. For me, I'm 12.5% of the council, so I'll do what I have to do, but 5:30's tough.
Well, 5:30 would be the workshop time, correct? And the actual
And not
council
every
meeting.
time.
Not,
Or is that every
and
time?
not, it's gotta be, like, if we're gonna make a major purchase, like, I'm just gonna say the land, and I hate to use the land, but I'm gonna use the land. That warrants more, for $400,000, that warrants a discussion, not necessarily, just for everybody to have that dialogue that does not take up that binds up the agenda, and then asking questions about the financial position of whether we're in position, and people going off looking for financial data to say, yes, we do or no. It needs to be done here, and then say, hey, listen, we'll bring it on to the next agenda or whatever, but I don't desire to have a work session every single meeting, but at the same time, is with your schedule, like what I like to do, is if that work session doesn't work, that you got questions regarding that, and we got to meet on a different day afterwards to discuss so that you feel comfortable with that,
I can do that.
I am always available to help you do that.
I'll
because
have to do that from time to time.
But the whole point is to engage, to say that you're informed about the votes that you're about to make. And I'm not saying you're not informed, I just want to make sure that it's not a question, because I like to see more questions about what we're doing, and just to make sure everybody understands what's going on.
I like it. I think this is really good. This is going to help us get better as a council, in my mind, because we haven't had it before, so. more time to understand the issues and what we're about to agree to versus should we agree to.
And there's gonna be, and I'll say, when you consider this structure and the very things that are going on, things that we need to do, because like, there's one thing about the motor fuel sales tax, and I don't wanna go back to it, but there's one sales tax that is gonna go off the books unless we take it to a referendum of the people about out-of-state sales tax that represents another $70,000 hit that would be a deficit to the city if we don't take that ballot. It's not adding necessarily anything to it, but it's, if you go buy a vehicle out of state, it would eventually expire that, correct? So we need to have that discussion, is we need to take that ballot issue and let our community vote on it. We need to educate them what it is, that if you go to Arkansas, I almost said Missouri, if you go to Arkansas and buy a vehicle, that sales tax does not carry over, where if I buy that same vehicle in Missouri, I'm paying tax on it, but I go to Arkansas, I don't. And so, it's not necessarily fair to the local vendors as well, but you're paying a different tax, and so it also would have about a $70,000 impact negative to an already budget that had $13 left over. So, but those are things that I'd like to have in this discussion, and about also how about what to do with the stormwater tax that's gonna expire in October. Dan, no other questions, I'll turn it to you.
Okay, well, you got the
I'm confirming my counsel.
okay. I like the Monday council meetings, that reminds me to take the trash out Monday night for Tuesday.
Whoa.
You know,
It's a deal breaker,
It's a
isn't it?
deal breaker, because if I forget to take the trash, you know,
I'll text you.
text them. It'd be great, that, if we can work something out, that'd be
I'll
great.
set up a reminder to remind you to text him.
Yeah, Charlie, remind Jason.
will. Thanks, guys. That's what the council working together. That's what I like.
For the weakest link.
I got one more point that's not on the list, and I promise I'll hurry, because we said 6:30. But, situation with dealing with, water utility bills that are being left over as bad debt to the city, and it being the requirement of the landlord.
Yeah, the way our ordinance reads right now, we can hold the tenant responsible. State statute, if you put the proper language in the ordinance, allows you to also hold the landlord responsible for up to 90 days. We've had this come up before, and there wasn't a whole lot of interest in it, but it's come up again because we had a situation come up with a landlord.
So then the landlord could go after the tenant?
No, we would go after the landlord.
Right, but by
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that, then the landlord could tack that onto his fees to the tenant, and then...
Right.
Okay.
So, if there's any interest, that's just an interest question. We'd like to change it. In years past, there was not much interest in doing that, but I think the bill was $5,400. And,
We've got a few rentals in town.
we got several rentals in town, and I think that's the issue, is that we need to get, because there was an influx of so many in that setting, that I don't think we should be sitting there holding on to bad debt that long. So you won't be seeing an ordinance unless there's some sort of, but, and even then, we can have a work, at any time, this is the one thing I love about having these meetings, at any time, you can say, I'd like to table this in lieu of a work session. That's all it takes, is just to say, you know what, I'm not ready to do this, it seems like I get a lot of feedback. It doesn't mean it's a no vote, it just means, hey, let's just move on with the agenda, let's have a work session on this topic at the next meeting. That's what I like about also changing the schedule, so with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. Again, everybody in council, go through the budget, look through that. If you got any questions, for Thursday, be sure you call David and have questions ready for Thursday. So, and Brandon, I will, to echo what you're saying, or answer your question for what you're saying earlier. Yeah, we were all told that. Brian wasn't giving you a line. I mean, we were all under that impression, so, and Brian was too. So we were all under the impression we're solid. Which brings me to, we do have good council here. Appreciate what everybody does here. You guys do a great job. Moving to 2017, though, I think, David's challenging staff, challenge council. Let's take it up to the next level. Start asking a lot more pointed questions. Bring your questions to council. Bring the staff. Let staff know that we're going to start asking a lot of questions. So Please, 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 look at your council packets, get them as soon as you get them, peruse them, don't just get them, and not saying that you are, don't just get them, just leave them there. Look over, get some questions for staff, so we can be prepared to ask these pointed questions. One of the things, as Roy was told, we're servicing, 1,500 people, each council member is what we've got, basically. Treat spending the taxpayers' money as personal. Treat it as like spending your own money, okay? Because that's what we're doing. Take it personal, how we spend these taxpayers' dollars. So going into 2017, we'll look over your packets, look over everything really, really close. We'll be talking about the mission in 2017 here in the future. I'm going to spend a whole lot of time on that, but, economic development is still going to be on our mission, but there's going to be some other things added to that, as David will point out. Again, you guys are doing a great job. Thanks for what you do. Looking forward to taking it to the next level in 2017 to help engage staff, make staff stronger, so they can make their people stronger, so they can be a stronger city. And with that said, I think we can adjourn this part. Do we adjourn?
Can I make one last, and I appreciate
Certainly.
that, I wanna make one key point in the budget, so there's to be fully out there in the open. One thing about it is, last year this council provided an increase to the employees in their pay. We did include their step and a 1% COLA in the overall budget. That was part of the overall objective of this council, wanted to continue to try to stay in that process. So I will tell you that the balance, that is still included in those numbers. So there is a provision for the employees in July. So the net effect of that is what? Sorry, Jared.
Roughly $60K.
For 2000, yes.
So you're about
I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Anything else? Any questions from council? We can adjourn this council workshop now.
Thank you.
Would you like to bless the food before we go in there?
I do. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather. We ask for wisdom as our city leaders and staff go through preparing this budget. Lord, that you guide their hands. We just ask you to bless this food and nourish our body. And it's in your Son's precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Is?
No, I don't think.